My parents said I ruined the family, and I realized I'd been shrinking myself for years. My mom's voice didn't crack when she said it. That's what shocked me first, how steady she sounded, like she was reading out a weather report. We were standing in the kitchen doorway with the Christmas ham scent still hanging in the air, and she pointed at me with her tea towel like it was a judge's gavel. "You've ruined this family," she said, loud enough that the living room went quiet. My dad stood behind her, arms folded, face set in that tight, disappointed way that always makes my stomach flip. My hands were still wet from washing a serving spoon, and the water kept dripping down my wrist like my body was leaking even though I wasn't crying. I looked past them and saw my aunt pause mid-sip of wine, my brother's eyebrows lift like he'd been waiting for this moment, and my little cousin freeze with a Lego piece pinched between his fingers. For a second, I couldn't find my voice. It felt like the air had thickened, like someone had turned the gravity up in the room. My mouth opened and nothing came out, which immediately made me angry at myself, because it wasn't the first time I'd been accused of destroying something simply by refusing to quietly absorb everyone else's feelings. Mom's eyes were bright and sharp, not teary, not guilty. Dad's gaze slid over me, like I was a stain he'd noticed too late. I could feel my pulse in my throat, that thudding, humiliating heartbeat. Someone in the living room cleared their throat. My brother did a small laugh, more like a scoff, and said, "Here we go," under his breath, like I was the problem for being stunned. Mom's jaw clenched, and she kept talking because silence makes her panic. "We've been walking on eggshells for months," she said. "Everyone's scared to say anything around you. You come in with your boundaries and your therapy words, and you make us all feel like monsters." She turned to my aunt as if she needed witnesses. "Tell me I'm wrong." Nobody said anything. Not to defend me. Not to challenge her. Just a heavy, complicit quiet that pressed against my skin. Then my dad finally spoke, voice low and controlled, like he was trying to be reasonable while stabbing me. "You used to be easy," he said. "You used to be part of us. Now you're this. Always offended. Always threatening to leave. Always making everything about you." His eyes flicked to my boyfriend, Noah, standing near the hallway, tense and pale. "And don't even get me started on how you talk about us to other people." I felt something cold move through me. Not like calm exactly, more like my body deciding it couldn't afford to fall apart yet. "I didn't ruin anything," I heard myself say. My voice sounded steady in a way that didn't match how hard my hands were shaking. I put the serving spoon down carefully on the bench because I didn't trust my grip. I just stopped pretending. That made my mom's face twist like I'd insulted her. "There," she snapped. "That tone, that attitude. You think you're above us now." I swallowed hard. The kitchen light buzzed faintly overhead. Someone's phone chimed with a notification. My little cousin started moving again, slowly, like the argument had become background noise he was used to navigating around. I realized, with a weird flash of shame, that he probably was used to it. That kids absorb this stuff like weather too. It was a Sunday night dinner at my parents' place. The kind they insist is just family, but always turns into an audience. Mom loves a full table. She loves presenting the family like a completed puzzle. For years, I played my piece quietly because it was easier than refusing. This year, I'd started slipping out of the shape they wanted. Not dramatically. Not with a big announcement. Just in small ways. I stopped answering every call immediately. I stopped saying yes to last-minute favors. I stopped laughing when my brother made jokes at my expense. I stopped letting Mom drop by unannounced. I started saying sentences that felt illegal in my mouth, like, "No, I'm not comfortable with that, and I need you to stop speaking to me like that," and the most unforgivable one, "If you keep doing this, I'm going to leave." Apparently, to them, those sentences were violence. The thing is, I didn't wake up one day and decide to be difficult. I didn't decide to ruin the family. I just got tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Tired of driving home from every gathering with my chest tight and my mind racing, replaying conversations like evidence. Tired of feeling 12 in my own body. Tired of apologizing for reactions that made sense. Tired of being the person who smooths everything over so other people can pretend nothing happened. So when Mom said, You've ruined this family. Something inside me finally clicked into place, because I realized the family she was mourning wasn't some warm, healthy unit I destroyed. It was the version where I stayed small enough to keep everyone comfortable. The version where I took whatever they handed me and called it love. The version where the whole system worked because I made myself soft and bendy and quiet. And I've been shrinking for so long, I didn't even notice until my body started fighting back. The argument tonight started over something stupid. It always does. Mom had asked, casually like she was ordering takeaway, if I could take Grandma to her specialist appointment next week. Not asked if I was free. Not would you mind. Just, you'll take her, won't you? Because in my family, helpful is a role you're assigned, not a choice you make. I said, I can't. I have work. Mom's face tightened instantly. You could take a day, she said. Family comes first. Normally, I would have folded. I would have moved my schedule around and resentfully done it, and then hated myself for resenting it. But Noah and I had been working on boundaries with my therapist. Who I didn't tell my parents about it first, because I already knew how they'd treat it like a personality defect. And my therapist had said something that stuck in my bones. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach your body it isn't safe to trust you. That sentence haunted me on nights I lay awake with my jaw clenched. So I held the line. I'm not taking a day off, I said. Calm, simple. Mom's eyes flashed, and she said, so you're abandoning Grandma now? And there it was. The pivot from request to accusation. The guilt hook. I looked at my dad for help, like a reflex, because a part of me still believes he might be reasonable. Dad didn't even look up from carving the roast. He just said, do the right thing, like I was failing a test. Noah shifted beside me, his foot brushing mine under the table. A quiet reminder I wasn't alone. Mom noticed, and her nostrils flared, like even that support offended her. Ever since you started dating him, she said, voice sweet and venomous. You've changed. You become selfish. Noah's posture stiffened. That's not fair, he said carefully. Mom smiled at him like he was cute. Oh, Noah, she said, you don't know her like we do. I felt my stomach twist. That phrase, you don't know her like we do, is my mom's favorite way of claiming ownership over me. Like I'm still a child. Like my adult self is just a temporary delusion. I said, don't talk about me like I'm not here. And Dad finally looked up, irritation flickering. Can you just let your mother speak? That was the moment my chest started buzzing with that familiar pre-cry heat. Not tears yet, but the build. The body's warning. I took a breath and said, no, I'm an adult. If you want something from me, ask me. Don't guilt me. Mom's face hardened. There it is, she said. The therapy talk. Then my brother, Eli, laughed. A short, delighted sound. God, you're exhausting, he said. He didn't look at me. He looked at our aunt, like they were sharing a joke. She's on her boundaries era. Everyone laughed lightly. Not huge. Just enough to make it clear where the room's comfort lay. I felt my hands go cold. I stared down at my plate and realized I was doing it again, shrinking in real time, folding inward, trying to disappear so they'd stop poking. Noah said my name then, softly. Hey, he said, you don't have to. Mom slammed her glass down so hard it sloshed. See, she snapped, pointing at him. You're turning her against us. I looked up. He's not turning me against you, I said, voice shaking slightly. You're doing that all by yourselves. That's when Mom stood up from the table, face flushed, and said the line she'd probably been holding for weeks. You've ruined this family. And now here we were, the kitchen doorway like a courtroom, my parents staring at me like I'd set fire to the house instead of refusing a guilt trip. I haven't ruined anything, I repeated quieter now. I've been trying to be honest. Dad scoffed. Honest, he said. You call honest. We call it disrespect. Mom nodded sharply. You used to be grateful, she said. Now you act like you're better than us. My brother leaned in from the living room, voice dripping with boredom. She's always been like this, he said. She just has vocabulary for it now. I turned to him, and something in me flared hot. Do you even hear yourself? I asked. You're mocking me because I finally have words for things that hurt. Ili shrugged, smirking. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. My aunt made a small sound like agreement. Grandma stayed silent, staring at her hands. My cousin watched like this was entertainment. And suddenly I saw it. The whole machine. The way it runs. There's always a difficult one in families like mine. Someone has to carry the discomfort so everyone else can feel normal. When I was younger, I cried easily. I flinched at raised voices. I asked too many questions. I didn't laugh at jokes that weren't funny. So I got labeled sensitive, dramatic, high maintenance. And once you're labeled, everything you do becomes proof. If you stay quiet, you're sulking. If you speak up, you're making a scene. If you leave, you're punishing them. If you stay, you're enabling it. You can't win. You can only play your assigned role. And the moment you stop playing it, they call it destruction. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to keep breathing. You want to know what ruined things? I asked, voice low. It wasn't me saying no tonight. It was years of me saying yes when I meant no. Years of me swallowing everything so you could pretend we were fine. Mom's eyes widened like I'd slapped her. Don't rewrite history, she snapped. I'm not rewriting it, I said. I'm finally remembering it. Dad took a step forward, voice sharper. Stop blaming us for your problems. I stared at him. I'm not blaming you for my problems, I said slowly. I'm blaming you for how you talk to me, for how you treat me when I don't comply. Mom let out a breathy laugh. Oh, poor you, she said, and that sarcasm, so familiar, so dismissive, made my stomach drop. Noah moved closer behind me, not touching, just there. My anchor. I looked at Mom and felt something like grief rise. Do you hear how cruel you are? I asked, and my voice cracked on the word cruel. Do you hear it? Mom's face hardened again like she'd put armor back on. I'm honest, she said. You just can't handle honesty. That line made my skin prickle because it was the same line she used when I was 15 and she read my diary out loud after finding it. The same line she used when she criticized my body for my own good. The same line she used when she told relatives about my anxiety and then said, I'm just concerned, while I sat there wanting to disappear. I realized, standing there, that she wasn't going to suddenly understand. She didn't want to understand. Understanding would require her to face that her honesty has been harm. My hands went steadier. That cold decision place again. I'm going home, I said. Mom's eyes widened with instant panic. Don't, she hissed. Don't be dramatic. Dad's voice snapped. Sit down. We're not done talking. And there it was, control, dressed as concern. I shook my head. I am, I said quietly. Mom's face twisted. See, she said, turning to my aunt as if she needed backup. This is what I mean. She storms out. She punishes everyone. And then she acts like the victim. Noah finally spoke, voice firm. She's not punishing you, he said. She's leaving because you're attacking her. Mom's eyes flashed at him. Don't talk to me like that in my house. Noah's jaw tightened. Then don't talk to her like this in your house, he said. The room went very still. My mom looked at me like she couldn't decide whether to be furious or wounded. Dad's face darkened. Eli muttered, Oh my God, like we were embarrassing him. I felt my chest tighten again, but I didn't fold. I'll see Grandma another day, I said, looking at Grandma directly for the first time. Grandma's eyes lifted, watery, and for a second I thought she might speak. She didn't, but her mouth trembled slightly, like she was holding back something old. I picked up my bag from the chair and moved toward the front door. My mom followed, voice rising. You're doing it again, she said. You're splitting the family. I paused at the door and turned back. I'm not splitting anything, I said. You're just not used to me having edges. Mom looked stunned, like she didn't recognize me. I left. Outside, the night air hit my face, and it felt like inhaling for the first time. My hands were shaking again as soon as we got to the car, adrenaline dumping. Noah got in and didn't start the engine right away. He just looked at me, eyes steady. Are you okay? He asked softly. I laughed once broken. I don't know, I admitted. I feel like I just committed a crime. Noah's mouth tightened. You said no, he said. That's not a crime. My phone buzzed immediately. Mom, then Dad, then Eli. I didn't open any of them for a minute. I just stared out at the quiet street, the neighbors' Christmas lights blinking cheerfully like the world didn't care about the war happening inside my chest. When I finally looked, Mom's text was, "You've ruined Christmas. I hope you're happy." Dad's was, "You need to grow up." Eli's was, "LOL, dramatic as always." The words hit like little stones, familiar and sharp. I turned my phone face down and felt tears prick, not because of the messages themselves, but because they were proof. Proof that to them, my leaving wasn't self-protection, it was sabotage. Proof that I could bleed quietly for years, and they'd call it peace, but the moment I stopped bleeding, they called it ruin. On the drive home, Noah kept one hand on the wheel and the other resting lightly on my knee. I watched the street lights streak past and try to make sense of the ache in my chest. I thought about how shrinking myself didn't look like one big act. It looked like dozens of tiny edits. It looked like laughing when Eli called me princess because I asked him not to show up to my graduation drunk. It looked like saying, "It's fine," when Mom told relatives about my breakup at a barbecue, and everyone stared at me with pity. It looked like taking Grandma to appointments without complaint because it was easier than hearing Mom say I was selfish. It looked like keeping my opinions mild and my voice soft and my needs invisible. It looked like choosing jobs based on what sounded impressive to my parents instead of what I actually wanted. It looked like shrinking my own life into something they wouldn't criticize. And it didn't even work, because no matter how small I made myself, someone always found a way to make me the problem. That night, at home, I sat on my couch in the dark while Noah made tea I didn't drink. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. My body was still braced for impact, like it expected my parents to burst through my door and drag me back to my role. Noah sat beside me, shoulder touching mine. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. I stared at the wall. "Why does it feel like I did something evil?" I whispered. Noah's voice softened. "Because you were trained to believe your needs are dangerous," he said. "If you have needs, someone else has to feel uncomfortable. And they taught you that their comfort matters more." I swallowed hard. The words made my eyes burn because they were too accurate, too clean. Later, my therapist's voice played in my head again. "Every time you say yes when you mean no," and I realized how many times I betrayed myself just to keep the peace. How often I'd chosen their comfort over my own nervous system. How often I'd left gatherings feeling sick and then told myself I was overreacting. I fell asleep eventually, exhausted, and woke up to a voicemail from Mom. I didn't listen to it right away. I stared at the notification for 10 minutes, heart pounding like I was about to open a trap. When I finally pressed play, Mom's voice was shaky, but not in a tender way. In a wounded, angry way. "I don't know who you think you are now," she said, "but this is not how we raised you. Families don't do this to each other. You're tearing us apart, and one day you'll regret it." I listened to the whole thing, then sat there with my phone in my lap, feeling hollow. The irony almost made me laugh. Families don't do this to each other. As if they hadn't been doing it to me for years. As if emotional blackmail didn't count because it wasn't called that. As if shame wasn't harm because it wore the mask of concern. I called Grandma that afternoon. My hands shook as I dialed because Grandma is the one tether that still feels soft. She answered on the second ring. "Hi, love," she said. I swallowed. "I'm sorry I left," I said automatically, because apology is my first language in this family. Grandma sighed. "Don't," she said quietly. "Don't apologize to me." I paused. Are they angry?" I asked, even though I already knew. Grandma was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Your mother is embarrassed." There was again. Embarrassed. Not concerned. Not reflective. Embarrassed. "I didn't mean to," I started. Grandma cut in gently. "I know what you didn't mean," she said. "But I also know what they meant. I heard what your mother said to you." My throat tightened. Why didn't anyone say anything? I whispered. Grandma's breath sounded tired. "Because it's easier to let one person carry the upset than to change the whole family," she said. "And you've always carried it." I stared at the floor, tears finally slipping out, hot and quiet. "I don't want to carry it anymore," I said. "You shouldn't," Grandma said, voice firm in a way that surprised me. "And for what it's worth, I'm proud of you." The words hit me like warmth. Not a fix, but a hand on my shoulder. After I hung up, I sat with that feeling for a long time, the strange combination of grief and relief. Grief for the family I kept trying to earn. Relief that I was finally seeing the truth clearly. My parents will keep telling the story that I ruined the family. They'll tell it at the next gathering. They'll repeat it until it becomes the official narrative. Eli will roll his eyes. Mom will cry in a way that invites sympathy, but not accountability. Dad will talk about respect, like he didn't raise me to accept disrespect. And I can't control that. But I can control whether I keep shrinking. I used to think shrinking was love. That making myself small was how you proved you belonged. But all shrinking did was make it easier for them to step over me without noticing. So yeah, my parents said I ruined the family. But for the first time, I'm starting to think maybe I just ruined the version of it that required me to disappear.